that you probably love. Highlander, Braveheart, Trainspotting, Ivanhoe, Troy, Merlin. He's been a mob boss on Castle, he's been a priest on Sons of Anarchy, and he has been Santa Claus 3 times. So if you plan on being naughty this weekend, he's going to find out. On Game of Thrones, he brought to life Lord Commander Jorah Mormont, a man who says his honor and strength may be the most powerful weapons on the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Cosmo. Tomorrow to get back to the set to film more Game of Thrones. I just found this out. Next year he's going to make us relive our childhood because he's going to be in Alexander and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day with Slim Morrell. So that's going to be kind of very cool. But he's no stranger to you guys. He played Lee Stryver in The Dark Knight Rises. And this summer he's in this little independent film you probably didn't hear about. It's called Pacific Rim. Art house thing. He was the, shall we say, quirky Dr. Herman Gottlieb. But a lot of us probably know him as a different doctor. Dr. Owen Harper of Torchwood. On Game of Thrones, he's Carl, the Night's Watchman, whose anger and fear erupt with disastrous consequences, right? That's right. Please welcome Mark Norman. Millions more probably met her as somebody else, and she brought to life everyone's favorite Hufflepuff, the often oddball but always brave and loyal Nymphadora Tonks. Sorry about that. I'm going to take on Harry Potter. Well, she's not playing Osha, the wildling woman who transforms from attacker to protector of the Stark Boys. She can be found singing and playing accordion with the band Molotov Jukebox. Please welcome Natalia Hanna. Go away now and let you guys continue the conversations you're having. Those were good. Probably a lot like some of the conversations those guys are having. James, you're closest to me. I want to start with this, but I want to get you to jump in on this as well. You've done no shortage of fantasy, historical epic. You've been a man who wears armor, hits people with swords a lot. I wonder what you think is about Game of Thrones, because this is transcended. Like, I mean, most of us here are probably genre fans who love, like I said, never seen the movie, I'm just named there, but this is transcended in a huge way. I wonder if you have a sense, and you guys can chime in as well, like what has it been about Game of Thrones that's kind of made it become the cultural phenomenon it has?
You know, if I knew that, I'd be a really rich man. I haven't watched lots of historical stuff, but I think Game of Thrones ticks so many boxes for so many people, you know, and its production values are so high continuously that it's just set new standards, you know, for that sort of television. But as far as, you know, identifying what it is, I think these shows come along once in a lifetime that people just embrace and become something really special. And also the books that George had written were so well loved by so many people, and David Benioff and Dan White's brought that to the screen beautifully, 100%. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. It was a wonderful transition from the books to the screen, to their credit.
Yeah, they're clever guys. Can I just apologise for being here? I mean, I was in it, but I wasn't really in it. So, these are the real stars.
Or Commander may disagree. He did something very important.
Yes, apologise. But yeah, they're clever guys. I was lucky enough to be directed in that particular episode by them, and they're very astute and kind and far-seeing individuals. You've got a great creative team on the show.
Yeah, fantastic.
Why is it good? I think it's because it's got that Lord of the Rings magic with like just a hunk of sex and death thrown at it. think that's we all have a link to, and it's also how I imagine the medieval world to be: brutish and short and sexual.
That leads in probably the question I want to ask you. Now, you had read the books before taking the role or before playing the role?
I haven't read anything.
I read a very bad article about that. That's right. I will twist that. I will twist that question a bit. See, I wonder if you guys will. I know some of the cast members have said they have this curiosity about this amazing story they're part of, but are sort of intentionally refraining from reading ahead. And
no, I when I got the part, I hadn't read anything.
Right.
But then once I got it, I became obsessed.
Oh, yes, okay.
And I read all of them.
I read a very good article.
And I can't wait for the next book. I really hope he doesn't die. I really want seriously, he will die all the time. I could die tomorrow. I really want the end to happen.
Well, how does that inform what you do? Because I know, like, Peter Dinklage and some others have said they're intentionally staying away because they don't want to know. They want to play the part of the moment instead of playing it knowing, maybe in a fatalistic way.
I think a few of them do that, right?
Yeah.
I know John, that I work with, plays Sam, he sort of does read, and then if he sees anything to do with his character, he sort of skips to the next one.
Let's get some from the audience. Do we have anybody ready to ask questions yet? If anyone would like to ask questions, two gentlemen have microphones.
Yes, you needed to mention that at the beginning. We have no one here waiting.
Anyone, any question about
You
anything?
guys have it. Yeah, if anybody wants to ask a question, those two gentlemen, there we go.
I've got actually a question for Mr. Cosmo. One of my absolute favorite scenes of all time is from Braveheart, where you've got the arrow in your shoulder.
Yeah.
I guess, how fun was it playing that character that was so much older than everyone, but so terrifying?
Well, I'm gonna boast here because we were filming that in Glen Nevis in the middle of the night. We were shooting it, and the arrow was in there. We're working our way at the scene, and I said, "Hey, Jimmy," he said, "What would you say if somebody pulled an arrow out of your chest?" I said, "I'll wake you up in the morning, boy." He said, "Use that." So I wrote that line. It's the only line I've ever written. I wrote it. Yeah, it was great. Braveheart remains, it's got a huge part of my heart in it. It meant so much to me, and it had a tremendous resonance in Scotland, which we see even today. And it's a big part of my life, and I was very, very grateful to be in it. Very much so.
Hi. The show is very famous for being sort of globe-trotting in terms of filming locations. And all of you guys have kind of been localized in Northern Ireland or Iceland. Are there any other locations that you would ideally like to visit, or?
Yes. Mine does great. It would be great. One of my agent rang me and said, "Oh, darling, you've got a job. They're going to film Croatian Malta, Belfast." Excellent. I was like, "I'm going to be filming in Belfast in the forest. I can just feel it in my ovaries." I'm trying. I would love to be in Croatia, sail. Gwen has told me there's amazing fish there. I mean, Belfast's alright. It's got some great pubs.
Any other actors you really want to do scenes with from the show?
I would have liked to have worked with Peter more.
Yeah, Peter.
But that's just the way it was. I was going to pick something up when you said that it was, Lord of the Rings with sex and violence thrown at it. Well, the sex bit missed me. I am the only guy there that's got this crowd of guys, and we're all celebrating.
That question to tie in with something I wanted to ask you. And if you ever read the books, you might know that Jorah Mormont's father, Jorah was with Daenerys. Did you ever speak with him about that relationship at all? Did you talk to father and son?
No, never saw him at all. We worked together before in another movie, but I didn't see him at all because I believe he was out in Croatia. Good time.
Doing seafood.
Think about like Thanksgiving in the Mormont house.
Yeah.
Question over here.
since HBO produces both True Blood and Game of Thrones, I was wondering if you knew if any of the poor dire wolves that maybe passed away on Game of Thrones live on as redneck werewolves on True Blood.
I hope so.
From Westeros to Louisiana. Am I there? Martin, do you have a question for me? It plays off of that to the Joseph.
Sure, yeah.
No, I mean, obviously you've played roles where you've had, seasons and seasons, or you've had an entire film to sort of, develop a character or work on an arc. Obviously, in this case, you came sort of out of nowhere, and then you had this very difficult scene. You killed this guy, screw everything up for the entire night's watch.
Sure.
How do you prepare differently when you kind of just be shot out and to go versus being able to sort of establish yourself, establish the character?
It depends on the actor. My feeling is that life is short, and I'm lucky enough to be an actor. And I feel that rather than going through my career and waiting for the right part, what I want to do is work with amazing creative people on great projects. So with something like Game of Thrones, it's a no-brainer for me to want to be part of it. I don't care what part it is. Obviously I'd like to play a man, but I just want to be part of the experience, So it was a very small part, but thankfully, there's probably more for me to do now. So I was honoured to be there. To be honest, it was great.
Do you spend a lot of time before doing that to say like, okay, what's Carl's backstory? Why is he so bad? Why is he so? Or do you kind of just go like, okay, I trust you. He's crazy. He's this.
Well, I knew the framework obviously of Night Watch, and also you kind of help if you've got questions, they'll kind of help you out with it. But I didn't know too much about the backstories. There isn't much backstory, but there will be. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about pig shit, if that's all right. Excuse my language, please. That's what I noticed most in Ireland. It's like this really glamorous show, and I turned up and it's like literally feet depth of pig mess everywhere. Right? I mean, is that a usual thing? It's just like, I couldn't believe it. I only had a week there and I was like, yeah, I'm done.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. This is a question for each of you. A bunch of people have died off, but based on who's left, who do you want to win? Me.
But that's a side project, I don't think it's going to. But I really want to be queen. I think I look really sexy on the throne. And I've told that to the writer many times.
The little guy for me.
And now over here, Rachel again.
How's it going? This is a question for everybody. I know George R. R. Martin's kind of getting up in age and everything like that, and I was just wondering if there's any kind of like backup plan, if he's shared anything with like
Plan B.
Yeah, like with any of the other writers on the show to kind of continue out the story if anything were to happen to the writer itself.
Yeah, I think so. I think the writers do work with him, and I think there is some sort of structure in place. So I think he already knows who's going to win. Put it that way, I think.
He's supposedly told the producers he's mapped out the rest of the story for them. Yep.
Good evening. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming down to Dragoncon. You guys are amazing. Come back next year. But my question is actually for all three of you. I was wondering which episode that you had filmed so far was the most fun or the most exciting for you.
Well, obviously my favourite episodes to watch were not the ones that I was in. Yeah, I had a great time in my short.
I enjoyed the sort of early part of season 1, sort of establishing the character of Mormont, and going into that was really enjoyable.
3, some of the stuff I did with the new characters that came in the reads. Do you read the Ellie?
Yeah.
I love them. I love Ellie and Thomas are fantastic, and having them on board was so much fun. And when we were filming that day at the forest, it wasn't cold and wet, which was amazing. And I got on really well with Ellie, and afterwards we watched The Killing. Have you guys seen the Swedish version of The Killing? Amazing. So at night, me and Ellie watching The Killing, and then during the day we were doing Game of Thrones. That was my life. I really enjoyed those few days doing that.
Tommy, I wanted to throw it back to you. And one of the things I think probably a lot of people in this group love about George Martin's writing is the dynamic characters, the arcs. People say, I mean, like Jacob West or some of these other characters that you start out there one thing. I mean, in many stories, you know, a character will be one thing and they'll play their role. The characters are that dynamic, they change, and obviously Osha, she's fully ready to murder these little boys. And by the end, as I said before, you go the opposite extreme of they're absolutely protected. What is it like playing a character like that undergoes that sort of transformation, that sort of...
I just think it's really basic because she's a very animalistic person, so that the maternal thing is very close to surviving, isn't it?
Right.
So it's an easy shift, I think.
Right. Who's turn? Right.
I was just wondering how, as you kind of approach something that is transferring from one media to another, how do you kind of think about the books and approach it and making the show?
I didn't go anywhere near the books before I started. I just wanted to work from what was provided on the scripts. That for me, that was the way I wanted to work.
Hello. I was wondering if you guys do everything from literature and everything. So, how do you get to the mindset of knowing your character is doomed? You know, with Tonks and with Lord Mormont. What do you do to cope with that feeling that one day you won't be there anymore?
I didn't know she was going to die when I started, obviously. But I was very happy. I liked dying. Am I wrong? Do you guys? I enjoy a bit of death.
I always die in everything.
Yeah, I can cope with it. Okay.
That's right. How long before did you know that Lord Commander was going to be?
Oh, a while, because I go fishing up in Oregon. I'm addicted to fly fishing for steelhead, and the guy that I go with, Bo, was reading the books. No, but we'd be standing there fishing and casting away, and he'd make these comments like, "I'm near at the end of 2, and I think you're still there now." And he kept it going for ages. I thought I'm out in series 2 and that's it, you know. But luckily they were kind enough to keep me on for series 3. But yeah, he was my conduit to what was happening to my career. Some old guy with a fishing rod.
The question's for Natalia.
Yes.
Ever since the dire wolves went to CGI, what's it like working with animals that aren't really there?
No, they've got stuffed animals that look like something you would in a bad fair. Massive. I do miss the dogs but the dogs are very friendly. There was a point where the dogs had to run and at me, and they would just lick my face. So they were very lovely, weren't they? It was so sweet. It didn't work. I mean, it is a bit funny. Sometimes there's dramatic scenes, some scene where we walk through Winterfell and everyone's dead. It's like dead horses and dead people, and then we have to go and touch this big fake dog, like this. But once you get past that, it's great.
Hi, Natalia, you said that you would make a very sexy queen.
Yeah.
Yes, you would. Just saying. But my question is actually for Mr. Cosmo. You played all these fantastic, big, burly, manly roles. How did your role as Archie in All the Queen's Men come about? Because it's brilliant.
There's always someone that brings that for you. Yeah, it was if you want to see a German comedy, and that's a really rare thing. We filmed in Germany. Matt LeBlanc, Eddie Izzard, myself, and another young man. I played a woman. And the one thing I take from it was, oh my goodness, it was so embarrassing. Because I'm a big guy, they said, so indeed, it's a big bosom. So they fitted me with these enormous bosoms. And then they said, let's see. So they fitted me with another even more enormous than mine. And then I realized that women of that stature only see the world from there. Anything else is going on? No concern of mine. I can only see the end. But we had a wonderful time on it. It's the most awful film. It's dreadful. When people talk about it, my toes. If you want to laugh, go and see it.
This is kind of a funky question that I'll throw it at you guys again, all three of you. And throw out, typecasting or anything like that. If you got the chance to play another role on Game of Thrones, and again, forget type, forget all that, if there a role that has you watched or someone you've worked with that you'd really love to kind of get your claws into one of the other roles.
Tyrion?
Yeah.
Tyrion. Or Gwen, what's her role? Brian? I always get her name wrong. Brian?
I like playing bad. I quite like Noah Taylor as Locke. Is that right? Noah Taylor? He played, what's his name? His character.
Somebody IMDb that real quick.
You know, he cut off Jamie's hand.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I quite like the way he sat on his horse and the kind of mean.
I guess I'm a bit of an age that there's not that many characters that I can play. There's nobody much older than me. But I was very happy with Mormon. I wouldn't think that.
Yes.
Hi, can you compare?
For Natalia.
I'm sorry, we're there.
Hi, you compare Lord of the Rings to Game of Thrones or vice versa, and I totally agree. So I'm curious, what do you think for future generations what the most enduring part of the story will be?
Of Game of Thrones? I have no idea. I wish I was psychic. I have no idea. I hope it's that they keep watching it. I don't know. Sorry.
Is it, you know, there's black versus white. Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings is we're the goodies and they're the baddies, and good fights evil and evil, loses and good wins. That's so not the opposite of Game of Thrones. Is that something that you think about? It's not for typical black versus white type deal.
More real, I suppose.
Perhaps that's why it's so popular now. You know, in this age of the sort of anti-hero, Walter White, Dexter type characters, where we're more complex now as audiences. We're looking for like the grey in between good and bad, likable and dislikable. We're humans. We like watching complex human behaviour, and it's so well written by George Percy and then the others that perhaps that's why it's so popular now, and that quality will never go away now for future generations. I think it's definitely a benchmark program,
Yes, now.
My question is for Natalia.
Hello.
First off, I never thought I would talk to you, so this is awesome.
Hello.
I wanted to know how you go from like this sweet, polite seeming person to this animalistic, vicious wild.
Ask my boyfriend. I've been with him for 5 years. He has to deal with it once a month.
Yeah. This is for all of you.
want Joffrey to die?
I would love him to be skinned, and that there's a spike, and ropes are burning the spike slowly, so it's slowly being pulled onto a spike. I can see it, I can't really draw it better. Apparently he's like a really sweet man. He's lovely.
Doing his job very well. Yeah.
I was wondering, is there any particular prop or piece of wardrobe that once you put it on or got it in your hand, you really felt like you had become the character? And any of those things happened to walk off set accidentally with you?
Yeah, I guess sometimes, you know, it does make a big difference when you put on that sort of heavy leather stuff and the chainmail, and you put the sword on, you feel that sort of weight and the gravitas helps. And I've stolen a lot of things in my life from film sets. I've got a pointed helmet from Troy that I keep, and different things, but I didn't manage to steal anything from Game of Thrones. I'm sad to say.
I noticed when I went in and worked with James and the rest of them, they all had to sit in their chairs like this. It's a massive sword, and the costumes are so heavy.
Yeah.
Layer on, you know, they don't stick on it. There's the underlayers that I'm sort of, they're not possible to see this, but it doesn't matter. And they're all sort of sitting very uncomfortably.
Yeah.
You must learn to cut the muscles.
And they get wet and heavy, you know.
I was going to ask the comfort level.
Because the leather stinks, so it's like it's not waterproof, right? What you're wearing isn't waterproof.
Yeah,
It's just, I look like a medieval bag lady. I don't know. I really like the weird tail that I've got. That's quite cool.
Hodor? Actually, I was wondering if you had a chance, and if any of you had a chance to sit on Iron Throne.
No, never did. No.
Until the Queen Ocean becomes.
That's right.
Hey everybody, I really enjoy your work in Game of Thrones and other pieces.
Thank you.
The question I have is for everybody, and I know some of you were cast, season 1, stuff was getting started, but how was the audition process, especially for, for Carl, where everything was already kind of in motion and the show was already kind of a hit?
My experience was very, very quick. Like I say, I was very open to the idea of working on Game of Thrones. So, the two cast directors I met were in England, Nina Gold and Robert, and they literally said, there's this part, do you want to come in and read for it? I read for it, found out quite quickly, because it was quite a small part. I imagine the other parts, they really must research and search out, do lots of auditions, right?
Yeah.
Because that is a huge cast, and you've got to get it right. Like I was really, I don't know about you guys, but I was sort of thinking who Manson was going to be, and I'm so glad they've gone with fantastic actor. But that's the exciting bit for me, actually, sort of working out who's going to be what. But my process was very quick.
Well, again, as in casting director, Nina Gould. And I remember they sent through the pages, you usually get, 2 or 3 pages, and it was a speech where he talks about, to the new recruits of the Night Watch, what the Night Watch is all about, and I read it through, and usually, like you read something you might have, when you're doing the reading, you might have it on the table, or whatever, just to refer to it. And I thought, this is really so good and so enjoyable to do. I'm really good, and I got it at really short notice. But I really, really worked at it all night, and my wife helped me do it. So when I went up for it, I really went for it, and it sort of worked, And again, it was very quick. They came back and said okay, because I was terrified of the usual American way of doing things. You go into a room with 2 other guys, get it. You know? And so I'm glad that didn't happen.
I hadn't read the books, and I think I looked up who the character was, and it was very minor, so I didn't really think much of it. I was really excited. I love dressing up in Russians, so I heard that she was wild, and I was doing loads of music festivals at the time, and so I had loads of ivy, like, you know, fake ivy hats from all the mad festivals I've been playing at in my band. And I had this brown dress, and my boyfriend works with metal, so I got some shackles. And I went in and just had fun. But when I walked in, there was loads of people. Did you ever do? I had loads of people. And I was really suddenly terrified, so I thought, okay, how am I going to deal with this? I was like, okay, I think my animal's like a raccoon. And I started just talking bollocks at them. And I said, and I walked out thinking, what am why am I wearing this why am I in Tottenham Court Road wearing this? Why did I do about raccoons? Or leopards? I don't know what I said. But I think I did okay.
Whatever it takes. Didn't Jason Momoa come in and do that? Did he? To get the I just had a rumour, it's probably rubbish, but you asked me.
Yeah. Tell all these people what happened.
Yeah. It's just something I heard that he's amazing. He's good for it.
Makes you pressure.
He certainly does.
Yep.
Hey there. So Game of Thrones is such a show that so many characters spread across so many filming locations. So does that end up being that you have kind of like sort of the Belfast group and the Croatia group? Are they kind of like separate gangs, kind of?
I mean, you get to know people more if you're there. You know, the hotel at the end of the night. After a long day filming, you're going to have a whiskey to warm your body up. And you do bond with those people. But then there are different filming schedules. So, I mean, I did meet a lot of people because I was in the first one. But there are now people that I don't know at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, at all.
Hello. My question's for Natalia. You did a film quite recently that was filmed at a music festival where you filmed it. Yes, yeah. And of course the name's forgetting me, but I was just wondering what it was like filming that, because you did it just in one long stretch.
Yeah, we did an entire feature in 4.5 days.
Which is insane.
It was mental. It's in the park.
Yeah.
None of us drank either, it was freezing. And I'd made a decision in Glasgow before. I was like, it's sunny, it'll be fine. So I picked a miniskirt. Really stupid. There was no catering, we lived off Red Bull and fudge bars, which is a bad chocolate bar in England. And it was like going to war. It was so intense, and like when I got back, my mates were like, how was it? I was like, I don't know how to talk about this. But we bonded so much, and there were moments when everyone cried, like the sound man cried, everyone had a moment of break, because when you're only sleeping 2 hours a night, and it's cold, you just lose it after a while. But it was such an amazing experience being on a main stage and doing all the music stuff as a musician. It was great. I loved it.
I see this. Have any of you guys met spoken to George Martin?
Yes.
Yeah. What was it like? What was that meeting like?
I hugged him a lot, and I told him I found his books very erotic, and I really liked that. And then to make me queen, repeatedly. I started this like 2 years ago. I was like, I did the leg work.
James, you also love him a lot.
You know, I didn't. But the last time I saw him was at they had a season 3 premiere in LA, which was fantastic. And you know the guy I was telling you about that told me what was going to happen when we were fishing?
Yeah.
Bo. I took Bo. And he sort of adopted George. And he hugged George a lot. The more vodka he drank, the more he hugged George. And I thought he was going to take him away as a souvenir at the end. But the last time I saw George.
Yeah, he's so. I mean, I just want to thank him constantly when you're around him. And his wife Paris is lovely as well. I mean, he's great.
Yes.
So, not counting Beyond, my favorite house is the Greyjoys. What are each of your favorite houses from Game of Thrones?
I I think Mormont was. Oh yes, was. Was completely dedicated to the Night Watch, so he wouldn't have been any. He had another job.
That's not fair. That question's not fair. I'm sorry, I'm not going to pledge allegiance to
Sorry, is the question what my favourite house is?
Yes. What's your favorite?
Definitely dragons. No? I like that house best. Dragons and fire.
I think obviously she had this love, this protective feeling toward the boys. What do you think her feelings toward the rest of the Starks are? I mean, obviously they're out of the picture for her now. But do you think there's some anger or?
I didn't really think about that.
Yeah.
I haven't even thought about the relationship at all.
Right.
But it's a good question.
Next time somebody asks you, you're going to knock it out of the park.
Natalia, I read that George was so impressed with your performance that he's going to give Osha more screen time. I guess you're excited.
Oh wait, this is true. Thank you, you just made my evening.
Not so much the questions and announcements.
James, you talked obviously about Braveheart and how important that was to you and special it was. Did you find you could really draw off that experience in Braveheart? Because it's very similar, kind of this very epic and violent war kind of piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's not often you get the chance to work for nearly just over 5 months on a movie, just constantly doing all that sort of battle stuff and things, and, my ass is now saddle shaped, so I could just join up to any other horse just to But yeah, it was a great experience for an actor just to be able to inhabit that character for 5 months. Real privilege. I'll always remember it.
Thanks for coming, first of all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I guess my question is hypothetically, each one of you were to have a dinner party. Who would you invite to the dinner party, whether it's a professional influence, some history, a good friend? Who would you particularly invite to your dinner?
How many people?
Two to three people.
Charles Bukowski, I'd definitely get him, because I want to see how rude he would be drunk. And Frida Kahlo.
Yes.
Steve, I think John Lennon, perhaps Dickens, and maybe a mathematician, Pythagoras, Euclid. Not sure, sorry.
It's so hard, I don't think about it all night.
Mine would be Christopher Hitchens.
Yes!
Thomas
I wanted to ask you, if somebody asked on episodes before, do each of you have a favorite line or a favorite scene? And Bert, you can't beg out of this because you have a great line. Sure. You have a favorite line. And is there one that, if not a line in a scene, but I love it, if there's a line that you really love to think about, or is it you like to
Well, I'll go first because I had probably 6 lines. Yes, it was obviously you are a beep, a daughter beeping, beeper. We had a good time actually. Robert Pugh, he's such a great actor, isn't he? And so he's a scary dude, when we're in this confined space around this fire, and he's got an axe in his hand and he's coming for you. It's like, okay, yeah, it was great.
So you looked a lot scarier than you seemed to be.
Oh right, yeah, no, that's right.
You looked like you were up.
Yeah, it certainly was. No, I can hardly remember my home address. Lines or something I did a year ago.
Right. I was supposed to say winter's coming.
driving through.
Hold on.
Hey, Natalia, you mentioned that you like to dress up. We have that in common. And we're at Dragoncon. This is for all three of you. Who would you dress up as?
Harley Quinn. Yes.
I'm actually borrowing a costume tomorrow. She's given me a choice. She said you can go either as a stormtrooper or a chicken. So I'm going to go as one of them and see if you can work out which one it is.
Is anyone here dressed up as Khaleesi? Amazing. Amazing. I need a picture of the outfit. I'm not joking.
I still harken after that dress I wore a little bit.
Nice Princess Leia. Do you guys know about the Buddy's band? You want to talk about your band? Because I discovered your group researching this, and it's
awesome.
So much fun.
Well, I've got a band with 6 of us, and it's called Molotov Jukebox. And we create this music called gypstep. It's like gypsy, it's got dubstep rhythms and it's kind of Latin, and basically it makes you want to do that. Which will make them smile, have sex, and enjoy life. So it's got a Latin influence and Spanish. But we call it jukebox because, you know when you get bands and they've got their one-hit single and then their other songs are a kind of diluted version of that. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. I don't want that. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I hear a cumbia beat and I want to write a cumbia song. Or I love Caravan Palace, which is like 1940s electro swings. I want to write an electro swing song. So that's what I call the gypstep. And it's very fun. And it's full of love and silliness. So check it out. Yeah, we just want to do this. Blah, blah, blah.
I think you talked about that, but one thing a lot of people would be curious to know what the evenings are like on set. You guys obviously you're spending a lot of hours with the same people, you're spending a lot of days and stuff. But is it? I kind of wonder what the soundtrack is. If there's a particular, what's it like? Do you spend a lot of time socializing with the other cast members after hours, or is it sort of everybody goes to their corners until the next day?
It's not like a hotel bar. I did, or go for dinner, or
You work long hours, right? Very, very long hours. And like in Belfast, there are some amazing pubs and places to eat. Me personally, a few times went out, but I was too tired.
Yeah, same here.
I'd get back and it was so cold, I'd go for they would let you have a gym pass. So after being out all day, even though I was knackered, I'd go for a sauna to get warm and I'd swim, and then I'd have a whiskey at the bar, and then I'd go to sleep.
I guess it depends on whether you're lugging around pounds of armor.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Have you know how much the costume weighs?
They must have weighed 40 pounds. 40, 50 pounds.
For 12 hours.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the pig excrement, you can't lift your legs up. This swamp, walking through. Yeah, right.
Yes.
This is for Natalia. I was wondering if you had your recording in here.
No, I don't. I'm just learning from Barcelona because I'm filming something else there called 10,000 Kilometers, and I flew to London and it's so heavy. I was like, I just want to take a small bag because I'm leaving for the weekend. Sorry.
I understand.
Sorry.
The wizard.
I have a question for Natalia.
Yes.
So I loved your description of Game of Thrones characters from Lord of the Rings. If you could meet one of the characters from Lord of the Rings, who would it be?
I don't know much about Lord of the Rings, I'm really sorry.
Oh.
I know you're probably all going to stab me in the face for saying that. But maybe an orc.
Oh. I'm going to make it easy.
Yep. They're up.
Hello.
Which one would have been?
Wow. That's such a good question.
So for Todd, would it be Nymphadora, or would Osha's, bestiality overcome the magic?
I think you're right. I think she would. It's pretty handy. What's so sad about watching the episode, let alone being in it, is seeing this, character you'd come to know and love actually being dispatched, in a really ungentlemanly, dirty way by a real lowlife in the back. It's just. But that's what life was like. It wasn't some great, awesome sword fight.
Yeah.
All right, this is a question for all three. With such a heavy storyline, was there any particular stories that happened while you were filming that just kind of made everybody kind of break up and laugh? And is there a particular person that you filmed with that is cut up?
For me, no, because I have to be very careful. Because if I start, there's no way. And if you've got a spare minute to waste, you can look up on YouTube and see some very embarrassing things of me laughing. It becomes terribly boring for everyone except me. Every time. So no, I try to keep very sensible.
I had some stories about Iceland and the fact that the snow would just descend, and it was very much a question of, no, we need to get off the mountain now. Like dangerous, very, very dangerous.
Yeah. They said that we need to leave now, and they said, yeah, we'll just get the shot. The guy said, no. If we don't leave now, we're not going to be leaving at all. We get stuck up there. So that was pretty serious. Yeah.
It's not what you were looking for, was it?
Joking around, dying, and avalanche.
This question is for Bern. I was wondering what it's like to fight kaiju.
Not strictly a Game of Thrones question. Yeah, awesome, great fun. I had a great time on the film, and it was amazing to do.
Same side.
I also wanted to say I love Pacific Rim and I saw it 5 times. When did you guys know, this is for all of you, how huge Game of Thrones was? Were you aware of the entire internet meltdown from the Red Wedding episode? Or was it before that or after that?
I still haven't seen the 3rd season.
You've not seen it.
I know, I'm waiting because I want to sit on my boat in winter and watch it, because if I do it now, it's sunny now, I want to wait till I have 2 days to just watch all of it. I think I thought it was quite big when I went to America in March. We went to the premiere and we went to the Chinese Palace, that's where it was, and there was so many people taking photos. And also in America, more in America than England, American people, I went to LA and people everywhere were saying, oh my God, you're that girl. And I was like, this is so weird. Whereas in England, I never get noticed, ever. Occasionally someone's like, I think I know you, I might probably had a drink or something. That's it. In America, they really like all this. So that to me impacted me when I came in March to America. I was like, wow, okay, this is serious.
What fan response has been? How's it different from Potter to this? I'm not sure a lot of people recognize you. That role is well done.
No, my real life, definitely not. Children do occasionally. Yeah. Like a little 10-year-old will come over and their mum will be like, sorry, my kid thinks that you're an Harry Potter man. Like, the mum thinks the kid's crazy. I'm like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks again for being here. It's amazing to see you all. Now, lot of you have played various roles in various movies. Which ones do you think you identify with personally? Which characters?
You sort of, I think, can speak for us all. You sort of bring something of yourself, obviously, to every character, don't you? Yes. So
I find that really hard. I think I can answer the least one. The least one I identified with was when I played Desdemona in Othello, and I could not get my head around this woman. I really didn't. I just don't get it. I don't get why she takes all this shit from this guy. He's a horrible man. Makes me more jealous. And allows herself to be beaten. And then my mate got dumped, and I helped her all through the night. And I felt what it was like to want to be. You will turn yourself into a dog for love. And I saw the way she was acting, and I got her more. But that was definitely my least. The one I just couldn't get. And I think I played it probably the worst as well. I don't know what the best one is.
The part I really loved doing, or had an effect that I really loved, was a tiny part in Narnia, playing Father Christmas, and it was a delight. It was a little thing, and you know, working with table tennis balls and things, CGI. But when it came out, it was lovely. And about 6 months later, I had a really long beard down here, but I usually have a shorter beard. Anyway, I was in the supermarket about 6 months after it came out, and this little girl, I was at a cheese counter looking at cheese, and this little girl came out. Her mum must have been somewhere, she wasn't absolutely around, but she came up and she was looking at the cheese as well. I thought she was, and she said to me, and I didn't make a big thing, I said yes. And she walked away. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Because there may be a young woman who's 16 now saying, I saw her.